shoot, 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 shoot.
Hey guys, welcome. It's that time again. Sports and shorts of sorts. It's your man, Ren City, doing what we always do, except you know what? Sometimes when you enter your 70s, things change up a bit. So let's try something a little different this episode. Episode 71, Sports and Shorts of Sorts. We always start with our jersey mentions, shouting out the people's jerseys numbers who coincide with the episode. But I thought, you know what? Let's talk the sports first. We'll do sports. We'll do jerseys, then we'll do shorts. Let's see how it goes. Why not? Let's do this. Because let me tell you, we'll start with the Olympics. And even before the Olympics started going, we got drama. Like in Great Britain with the equestrian 39-year-old multi-Olympic gold winner Charlotte Dujardin, banned from her team, will miss out on the Olympics. She was looking to become one of Great Britain's most heralded medalist winners. However, a video resurfaced of her going to town on one of the horses, just whipping the shit out of him to the range of 24 times, all caught on video. The former Olympian said the video showed her making an error of judgment. It was pretty rough to see her just beating the shit out of that horse. It came out. People say you got to be tough with horses, but that looked excessive. She got sent home before even getting a chance to compete. Tough break, but you know, you're responsible for shit you do. Which brings us to the next one, a Japanese teenager, Shoko Miyata. She was looking to lead a very young and talented group into the gymnastics in the Summer Olympics, but she broke team conduct by smoking and drinking. That's what teenagers do in Paris. However, the smoking and drinking age in Japan is 20, and by her participating in that fun, or whatever you want to call it, has got her sent home. A massive blow to a Japanese team who was, like I said, they're young and they're looking to make history. It's harsh, but again, rules are out there, and if you break them, you got to get let go. Unless you're this person. This is some of the craziest news I found in the Olympics. There's been tons, but Dutch volleyball player Steven van de Velde, the 29-year-old, was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2016 for a sex attack on a then 12-year-old British girl. He only served 12 months of that sentence. That's insane in its own right. But now Van de Velde going to the Olympics. He's not allowed to stay in Olympic Village. He has to remain isolated, which that's something on its own. The Dutch Olympic Committee stand by their decision, saying Van de Velde, he's successfully rehabilitated and he deserves a place in the squad. The International Volleyball Federation said their hands were tied. They were unable to stop the Dutch from sending Van de Velde to Paris after he qualified in the usual fashion. So, a convicted rapist, okay to partake in the Olympics? Doesn't that seem fucked? You have Sha'Carri Richardson testing pot while dealing with her father's death with some pot, and she couldn't go to Tokyo Olympics. Yet you have a straight up convicted rapist on a volleyball team, and they're like, hey, our hands are tied here. Mind blowing. Like I said, a Japanese teenager kicked off the team for smoking and drinking. Dutch volleyball player, convicted rapist. He's on the team. Makes no sense to me. But This news is really close to home, and it sucks. This is serious for Canada. Not as bad as a convicted felon, but in the integrity of game, this is about as serious as you get. A Canadian drone was spotted flying over the New Zealand's practice session before their group matchup. Little did we know what box this drone would open. Canada was busted for spying. The windfall is grown and grown. 3 staff members sent home, including head coach Bev Priestman, who has been removed from the Olympic Games altogether. She's suspended, many calling for a job, including myself. The questions are now, how long has the coaching staff been doing this for Team Canada? There's talks it goes back to when John Herdman was managing the team. They're saying he deployed these tactics on the men's squad before leaving the TFC. This is massive. Defending gold medalists in footy, and everyone's questioning their wins, everything they've done, which I don't think is fair. A lot of the players didn't know about the extra intel the coaches were doing. That it's just ugly. This team has inspired many and will continue to do so, but man, talk about a black eye on the team. Canada would not even hear their punishment until after the first game against New Zealand, which we'll get to, but it was announced that Canada would get deducted 6 points. Coach Priestman suspended from footy for a year from all activity. 6-point deduction is huge in group play involving 4 teams in a group. I'll let you know how the team responded to this deduction a little bit here. But one thing I didn't like is how everybody piggybacking on this. Like Sid Sixero, the guy was on the score. He's on Breakfast TV now. Spouting off how he wouldn't be surprised if less people want to get involved with Canada footy, and he respects that. Thought that was harsh. This is where we need to be backing them up. The Canadian government threatening to not invest more in this team until they investigate. Like, where was that energy amongst the men's junior hockey team and their sexual assault case? The government wasn't jumping in there. These players are busting their butts off. And this was all done by the higher ups. So investigate, clean house of everybody above who's involved in Drone Gate, and get them the fuck out of here. And let's move on with one of the best talented group of players in the world. Let's just see them do their thing without all this bullshit. So the Olympics started. We did get there. Like, the ceremonies were Friday, but we had a few days before where we'd start up. And then on the Wednesday, the unofficial first day of the Olympics, I guess, opened with men's footy and men's rugby sevens. You had Spain. They've been on a hell of a run in footy. And remember, on the men's side, it's under 23, except you get a few wild cards of guys that are a little older. And Spain, they just continue what they do, and they'd get a lead. Then they'd give up a penalty, and Uzbekistan would tie it. But in the 62nd minute, Spain would go up for the second time, take the win. Egypt and Dominican Republic would play to a scoreless draw to finish off Group A play. Then you'd have some madness. Argentina seems to be around all the madness all the time. Morocco, they were playing Argentina. They opened the scoring when Rahimi found the back of the net. And then not even 5 minutes into the second half, Morocco would win a penalty and Rahimi would score a second. The 68th minute, Argentina got one back through Giuliano Simeone. And then with Morocco leading 2-1 approaching the 90th minute, 15 extra minutes were added to the match. And Argentina needed every one of those. The dying moments of the game, Argentina would force big saves out of Moroccan keeper El Khajoui. And the next attempt floated off the crossbar, falling right to Medina, and he was the first to put it in with literally the last touch of the game. Fans were storming the pitch in protest. It was a gong show. The game was suspended. It looked like 2-2 on the scoreboard. But then the players would have to return to the pitch and play out the last seconds of the game. VAR overturned the call as there was an offside, but they didn't want to make the decision with all the storming of the pitch for fear of safety. So more controversy surrounding this Argentina team. This time not in their favor as they fell 2-1. Not a draw, not a last second draw, but a 2-1 loss. And the Argentina's already getting tons of hate in France because of after their celebrations for winning Copa America, they were singing those songs about African players being on the French team. So they're not really liked in France, but you gotta hate how people are getting robbed in their locker rooms. Various teams are saying they're getting shit stolen from their locker rooms. Not ideal way to start the tournament. You'd have Iraq and Ukraine playing. This one was a pretty fun one. It was tied up going to the 75th minute where Ali Jassim would score and give Iraq their first lead of the match. Coming back from 1-0 to win 2-1. Big win for Iraq. Tough one for Ukraine. New Zealand would get an early chance, and they'd win a penalty where Garbett Matthew would step up and miss from the spot. However, he made up for it a few minutes later when he found the back of the net. Guinea turned up the pressure, and they looked to equalize. It was disallowed, but later on they'd score, and this one would count. It looked like it might be a 1-1 game, but Ben Waine scored the winner, and New Zealand would win 2-1. Big win for the Kiwis. France took on the United States, and after 45 minutes, the French crowd was getting restless. This didn't look like France. It took just until a little after an hour where Alexander Lacazette would open the scoring in the 61st. 8 minutes later, new Bayern Munich signing Michael Olise would score to make it 2-0, and Loic Bede would score to make it 3-0. A little shaky, but Thierry Henry's team pulled out the win in the 3-0 victory. Japan took on Paraguay, and this was all Japan. Shinsuke Mitsu would open the scoring, and he'd get 2 goals in the game. Rihito Yamato would score, and it would be 3-0, and after the 2 goals scored by Mitsu, he'd get subbed off for Shota Fujio, who would score 2 goals within 6 minutes of each other, and Japan won 5-0. I'm refusing to, I'm not a hating guy here, but it blows my mind how, with what Israel's doing right now, they're still in the Olympics, and they're not facing any sanctions like the people from Belarus or Russia. They don't have to perform under the AIN as they do, so I'm not really going to give them much coverage here. Mali played them and drew 1-1. The men's rugby sevens, though, this kicked off on the first day. What an exciting sport. I was getting into this one. They had some big matches on the opening day, and that would continue into the second. Where the second official day would be the Thursday. Didn't technically start yet, but we'd get some more sports. Women's handball, women's and men's archery, some more rugby sevens, and we get some good footy, And Canada took on New Zealand. There was all the talks about how Team Canada and all the drone jokes coming out. They were wearing the scarlet letter coming into this match, and it didn't start well for them at all. Canada assistant coach Andy Spence would be leading the game, leading Canada into this game. And like I said, they got a bad start. 13 minutes in, Mackenzie Berry found the back of the net. New Zealand was looking good going into halftime with the break, with the lead. But then 4 minutes in the stoppage time, the Casts would tie the game at 1, and it stayed 1-1 for most of the second half. Then in the 79th minute, Evelyn Viens would score to put Canada up 2-1, and that's how the game would end. Scrutinized Canadian team comes back from 1-0 to win 2-1. Big win for them. Japan would shock the Spanish side in women's footy when Fahinho would score just 13 minutes into the match, but it didn't last long. Bomadi would equalize in the 22nd minute, and Spain was really dominating the ball looking for the winner, and it would come in the 74th when Mariana Caldente scored to give them the 2-1 win. Big win for Spain after going down early. Germany and Australia, two women titans in the sport, but it was Germany who got off to the great start in this one. Gwyn would set up Hergering, who made it 1-0 after 24 minutes. And the second half, Germany would get a corner, and Gwyn would get another assist when she'd spot Schuler in the box, and she'd score in the 64th. 4 minutes later, Jewel Brand put the game on ice as Germany beat Australia 3-0. Nigeria and Brazil. This game was fairly even, and the only goal would come in the 37th minute from Gabby Nunez. That Brazilian goal was, like I said, the only one of the match. Brazil narrowly escaped with a 1-0 win over Nigeria. The host nation, France, was taking on Colombia and couldn't have asked for a better start when Marie-Antoinette Catatu would score just 6 minutes into the match, giving France the early 1-0 lead. Then the 18th minute, Daly would double France's lead, and just before stoppage time, Catatu would score her brace in the 42nd minute, and France led 3-0 in the half. Colombia was really turning the favor in the second, though, first getting a penalty where Usmi would score to make it 3-1. Then 10 minutes later, Manuela Pavi would score to make it 3-2. South American country battled back, but they came up short as France won 3-2. The USA women's team, always favorites coming into a match, but there were still questions about this team in the Olympics, but they silenced those critics early. Trinity Rodman scored in the 17th minute to get the 1-0 lead. Then in the span of less than 90 seconds, Mallory Swanson scored a brace for USA, giving them a 3-0 lead after just 25 minutes, and that's all they needed as they took the game 3-0. Women's handball continued in group play, much like footy. Men's rugby sevens were already in the quarterfinal stages, and South Africa knocked out New Zealand. France knocked out Argentina. Fiji beat Ireland in a close one, and Australia skunked the Americans 18-0. So Friday, this was the official opening ceremonies. You didn't really have any events. In the morning in France, you had some of the practice in the 10-meter air pistol event. And now there have been some really cool ceremonies, like you think of China's. Theirs was insane for their Summer Olympics. But I got to throw Paris right up there. The whole outdoor event was something we've never seen in the Olympics. The delegations arriving by boat was very unique as well. We went through each one of the artists' 12 tableaus, and it was something different. You'd have the very cool performance, all in French, by the way, by Lady Gaga. Then you had the Medal of Gojira being blasted with various Marie Antoinettes all headless holding their heads as they sung. That was kind of dope. You had this metal horse galloping down the river Seine, to bring people together. The various scenes of dancing with peoples of all ages, sex, and races, and awesome bringing together of artistry, music, and something you can describe as simply French. I've already read all the various complaints about ceremonies, how Christians should be offended by the Last Supper look, but it's already come out that they were honoring Greek art, nothing to do with Christianity, so people getting mad before hearing the whole story? No way. Others complain that there were too many people in drag, I don't know. I thought the whole ceremony was dope. It didn't change the way I think in any way. It didn't alter my mind, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was an opening ceremony for one of the biggest events in the world, and I think they nailed it. The variety of former athletes, Serena Williams, French athletes, Tony Parker, legendary vigor, Zinedine Zidane. The coming down of the rain really added to the night, and I think the lights, the rain, the moon, I tip my hat to the organizers and the performers doing that in the rain. Yikes. And finishing it off with Celine Dion on the Eiffel Tower. Chef's kiss. Bravo, France. I like what you did there. Saturday, we'd have the official day one of the Olympics. We'd see some badminton, men's, women's, singles, and doubles. We get more handball, this time on the men's side, volleyball, beach volleyball, rowing, field hockey, equestrian, canoeing, table tennis, water polo. Lots of talks and lots of clocks surrounding the USA women water polo team. The main clock being around Flavor Flav, as he is financially contributing to this team because he heard they were all working like multiple jobs to try to get there. Got to give a shout out to him, and he's bringing celebrity guests there. Everyone's coming out to watch water polo. You got to love that. We'd see our first combat sports, judo, fencing, boxing, first day of swimming, men's gymnastics, and some tennis and surfing rounded out the day. We even had some medals go out. Women's synchronized 3-meter springboard, gold China, silver US, bronze Great Britain. Cycling, Rhodes women's time trial, gold to Australia. Grace Brown, silver Great Britain, Anna Henderson, bronze to Chloe Dygert. Cycling men's individual time trial, you had 2 Belgians, Femco Evenepoel winning gold and Wout van Aert winning bronze. Sandwich in between was Italy's Filippo Ganna. Rugby sevens, like I said, this sport was freaking exciting. And on the men's side, South Africa beat Australia to win the bronze. Then you had the gold medal match with France and Fiji, and France shocked the world, beating Fiji 28-7, winning the first gold medal for the host in the Olympics. France took the gold. They didn't even qualify for this event in the last Olympics in Tokyo. And they gave Fiji, a rugby powerhouse, their first ever Olympic loss in rugby sevens. Magical win for the host country, France, that no one saw coming. You had some fencing medals going out in the women's EP individual bronze. You had Hungary's Muhari winning that. Then the gold medal match, Hong Kong's Vivian Kong won gold, beating the French Malo Bertoni, who took home silver. In judo, you had some medals go out. They had a bronze medal A and a B. So on the women's 48 kilogram side, you had France Buckley winning the bronze and Sweden's Babofath winning the other. And then in the 48 kilogram gold medal match, you had Japan's Sonoda winning gold, beating Mongolia's Bavaduri, who took home silver. The men's 60 kilogram bronze medal A and B, Japan Nagayama won bronze in his match, while Spain Garagos won bronze in his. And then you had the men's 60 kilogram gold medal match where Kazakhstan's Yeldo Smetov beat France's Mikadizi, who took home the silver. The scene was something else of Smetov just breaking down, getting his gold medal on the podium, listening to his national anthem. That's what the Olympics is all about. We had some swimming medals go out. The 400 freestyle final, Germany Lucas Mertens took home gold, with Australia Elijah Whittington and silver, with South Korea's Wooman Kim taking bronze. You had the 400-meter freestyle final. What a race this one. Everybody was expecting this to be a 2-horse race between Titmus of Australia and legendary Katie Ledecky of the U.S. And Titmus was way ahead of everyone, but it was second place. It was surprising. Canada's 17-year-old Summer McIntosh, swim of her life, finishing behind Titmus and winning the silver medal. Canada's first medal of the Games. Ledecky would finish third and take home the bronze. In the women's 4x100 meter freestyle relay, Australia took gold, U.S. silver, bronze to China. On the men's side, in the 4x100, U.S. would take gold, Australia silver, with Italy in bronze. Which brought us to fencing, where the men's saber bronze medal match would have Italy's Luigi Simele taking the win. And in the men's saber gold medal bout, you had South Korea's Sang-Guk Oh beating Tunisia's Faris Faryani, who took home the silver. Big tennis matches of the day. Poland's Iga Swiatek, Serbia's Novak Djokovic, both won their matches in straight sets. And what can be said about Spain's Carlos Alcaraz and Daniil Medvedev, who also won? AIN is how Daniil Medvedev's been playing, because as I said earlier, Russia, Belarus, not allowed to represent themselves, so they're independents in this. I don't know why Israel isn't. Anyway, we'll get to that more. We got the lethal Spanish combo of Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz making their duo doubles debut in the Olympics. Some have already called them Nadalcaraz, and they won in straight sets over Argentina. The amount of tennis, like talent in this tennis competition is crazy. From singles to doubles, both sides, it's wild. But we got to see men's basketball, where I've talked about this in my basketball shows. This is some of the peak basketball you'll see. And we had Australia taking on Spain. What a game. Australia jumped out early and never looked back. They took it to Spain. Some big NBA players lighting it up. Jock Landale, the Houston Rockets, 20 points, 9 boards, 5 dimes. Miami Heat's Patty Mills had 19. He always plays great for Australia. Dyson Daniels, 13.7 boards. He's going to be a steal for the Atlanta Hawks in that DeJounte Murray trade. How about Josh Giddey? The guy fell out of rotation with the Thunder before getting traded to the Bulls. 17 points, 8 boards, 8 dimes. A big reason why Australia played as well as they did. Memphis Grizzlies, Santi Aldama led the way for Spain, 27.6 boards. But big 92-80 win for Australia. Germany took on Japan. It was a hard-fought game, but Germany wouldn't let the score get any closer than 7 to 10 points. Rui Hachimura found his shot for Japan in the third quarter to make things a little closer. But you could see why Germany was the FIBA World Champions. They'd go on a run fueled by their MVP of the FIBA tournament last summer, Dennis Schroeder. They'd win by 20, picking up the 97-77 win. France got off to a battle with Brazil, and Brazil got off to a really hot start. The French were behind early in front of their home crowd, making people a little uneasy. Then San Antonio's Victor Wembanyama had to bust out his jersey. He's making alien plays all over the court. Massive dunks, making commentators bring up Space Jam. And you know how long MJ's arm gets in that. But the size of the French proved to be way too much Brazil. They battled back to win 78-66. I mentioned Wembanyama. Him and veteran Nicolas Batum led the way for France with 19 points. It was a milk moment, like missing. Where are you, Bruno Caboclo? He played 11 minutes and did nothing really for Brazil. He was their guy coming in, and he, like I said, did nothing. We'd have our big game. I was waiting for this one. Canada and Greece. Canada jumped out to a lead, but Greece battled back, made it close. Canada went up by 10 going in the halftime. And then while up 10 again with 4 minutes to go in the third, Dylan Brooks picked up his fourth foul, and Greece battled back. The crowd, who was very Greek-oriented, got into it, and the score was down to 4. Dort would come back in with 4 fouls. Everybody was in foul trouble guarding Giannis, and he would make a big steal before hitting a big 3, making the lead up to 7. SGA did some dancing before a step-back 3, and it was up to 10. But then Powell was already fouled out. You have Dylan Brooks fouled out. Then Dort fouled out. Guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, just you acquire fouls. It was an 8-point lead with 1:42 to go. Then a tough floater by Greece made it 4, forcing a Canadian timeout. Trey Lyles would turn it over by half, leading to a Giannis dunk, and it was suddenly a 2-point game. But man, SGI, he's NBA first team for a reason, hitting an insane tough shot over Giannis to make it a 4-point lead. Giannis would attack the hoop again, getting fouled, and he was money from the line, but he'd only hit 1 of 2, and Canada tried to milk the clock in a scrappy possession before Murray was fouled, and he'd hit his free throws. Greece would scramble trying to get a basket. RJ Barrett would get a breakaway dunk, sealing the Canadian win. And there was some trash talking. SGA, he's not always out there trash talking, but he was definitely calling someone a bitch. I'm not a pro or lip reader, but he was definitely calling someone a bitch. But hey, they won 86-79. Very tough competitive game. I mean, Giannis was lights out for Greece. If he had only a little more help, they probably could have won that game. Like I said, men's basketball in the Olympics, so much fun. But we had some men's footy. Argentina, they really needed a win after that controversial loss to Morocco, and they'd bounce back. They'd beat Iraq 3-1 to really, like I said, they needed a win in the worst way and got one. Spain continued their hot trend, going on to beat Dominican Republic 3-1. And Ukraine were looking to bounce back from their first loss, taking on Morocco, who still were stunned that they won 2-1. But Morocco would get the lead in this, Ukraine opened the scoring in this one, and Morocco would tie it up when Ukraine picked up a red card, giving up a penalty to Morocco, who would convert, Rahimi again, tying it at 1. And Morocco, with that extra man advantage, they had most of the ball, but deep in the stoppage time, Ukraine would score. Second lead of the game as they went up 2-1, and they won the game. Big win for Ukraine. Uzbekistan took on Egypt, and it was Egypt who kind of dominated this one. Koka Ahmed would take the shot, and he'd find the back of the net. Egypt would win 1-0. New Zealand took on USA, and this was a rout. All USA all the way as they won 4-1. New Zealand scored in the 78th minute to ruin a clean sheet, but like I said, all America in that one. Again, I'm not going to really talk about Israel at all in this one, but they did lose to Paraguay 4-2, and there were some Free Palestine signs in the crowd, so good on that. France took on Guinea. Guinea had a goal disallowed for being offsides, and the game remained scoreless. Again, a lackluster-looking effort by France, but that was until a cross was met by Sildilia. His header found to the back of the net, and France won 1-0. The game between Mali and Japan was pretty close until the 82nd minute when Rahito Yamato would score, putting Japan up 1-0. Then in stoppage time, a Japanese handball led to a Mali penalty. Doumbia would step up and miss the net terribly. It was a terrible penalty. Just brutal. As you got all this hope we're going to secure a draw. Nope, missed the net. 1-0 win for Japan. Sunday, this was the second official day of the Olympics, or day 5, depending how you're looking at it. A lot more medals given out. Saw some footy and basketball, men and women, handball, volleyball, beach volleyball, rowing, table tennis, water polo, equestrian field hockey, some sailing. We'd see some boxing, judo, and fencing was in full swing. The women had their rugby sevens, and man, I'm growing on that sport. I may become a rugby fan here. The women got their chance to perform in gymnastics after the men did prior. Amazing to see Simone Biles back out there doing her thing. She's really the GOAT. It's something when you watch how people watch other people, and everybody's paying attention to Simone Biles. But I got to give a shout out to my wife, Caitlin, who's been filling me in on a lot of the gymnastics that I haven't always been able to watch. Like I said, more medals given out Sunday. We had the shooting 10-meter air pistol men's final. China's Zhiyu took that. Italy's Federico Nico Maldini, silver. Bronze for Italy's Paulo Mano. On the women's side, South Korea won that. Gold and silver, with India's Manu Bhaker taking home the bronze. Cycling, mountain bike, women's cross country. France won gold in that with Privot, USA Haley Batten in second, and Sweden's Jenny Rissved in bronze. Skateboarding, we saw the women's street final. Japan Koko Yoshizawa won gold, followed by her compatriot Liz Akama, with the bronze going to Brazil race at Rio. Archery, you had the women's gold medal match with South Korea ousting China. In the bronze medal, you had Mexico defeating the Netherlands for that. Canoe slalom, you had the women's kayak final. Australia's Jessica Fox won gold. Poland's Zinka won silver. Kimberly Woods of Great Britain won bronze. The women's foil individual bronze medal. How about Canada's Eleanor Harvey defeating Italy's Alice Volpi for bronze? That was the first time a Canadian has ever medaled in fencing. And Harvey said, there's tons of great fencers in Canada. This will not be the last. Gotta love that. For the gold medal, you had USA Lee Kiefer beating Lauren Scruggs, both Americans getting a gold and silver there. The men's side, in the bronze medal, Egypt's Mohamed El Sayed beat Hungary's Tibor Andratsky for bronze, while the men's, you had Japan's Ken Okoki beating France's Burrell for the gold. Judo men's 66 kilogram bronze, you had the A and B bronze medal matches. Kazakhstan's Krizbazebayev won the bronze in the A. Moldova's Vero won the medal B, bronze as well. Men's 66 kilogram gold medal, you had Japan's Abe beating Brazil's Lima. The judo women's 52 kilogram bronze medal A and B. Brazil's Pimenta beat Italy's Giaffaretta for bronze, and you had France Bouchard's beating Hungarian's Putt for bronze, which led to the women's 52 kilogram gold medal, where Uzbekistan's Keldyarova beat Kosovo's Krasniki to win gold, while Krasniki took home the silver. You had more swimming medals, where in the 400-meter individual medley final, France's Léon Marchand set an Olympic record, crushing the opposition. Japan's Matashita finished silver, while in bronze you had Carson Foster of the USA. The women's 100-meter butterfly, you had a pair of Americans get gold and silver. Tori Husk barely beating out teammate Gretchen Walsh, while China's Zhang took home the bronze. Canada's McNeil, defending winner, finished in 5th in that one. The 100-meter breaststroke final, Italy's Niccolo Martinghi took that. Great Britain's Adam Peaty won silver, while Nick Fink took home the bronze. Men's doubles in tennis, Andy Murray teamed up with Evans as Great Britain took on Japan's Daniel and Nishikori. Japanese pair took the first set with relative ease, but the British battled back in the second in a tiebreak. Then in the third and deciding tiebreak, things looked bleak for Great Britain, but they pull off some Murray magic and win the deciding set 11-9. Massive win for Great Britain, and Andy Murray's last hurrah. You had some big names on the women's tour pick up some big wins. Chechia Barbara Krejcikova won her first match and needing 3 sets to do it. USA's Jessica Pegula won. Canadian Bianca Andreescu beat Denmark's Towson in straight sets. Canadian Leyla Fernandez had to go to third set with Chechia's Muchikova, both great competitors on the tour. Leyla won in straight sets, or looked to win in straight sets, but collapsed in the second, but really bounced back in the third. You had Vekic of Croatia winning in straight sets. China's Zhang skunked Italy's Sarah Rani 6-0, 6-0. Those are both tour players. That was a brutal loss there. American Coco Gauff made her debut cruising to a win in straight sets over Australia's Tomjanovic. Denmark Karoliani Wozniacki won in three sets. Wozniacki won in three sets after dropping the first. Marta Kostyuk of Ukraine beat New Zealand's Lulu Sun in straight sets, and Ukraine Eliana Svitolina won in straight sets to move to the next round. On the men's side, Rafael Nadal needed 3 sets to beat Hungary's Martin Fucsovics. Norway's Casper Ruud won in straight sets in his match. Lorenzo Mussetti's keeping his great summer going, winning over French player Guy Monfils. Canadians Felix Auger-Aliassime beat an American Marcus Giron in straight sets. Greece's Tsitsipas needing a third set to win his match. Sweden's Stan Wawrinka won his. You had German Struff beating Portugal's Francisco Cabral in straight sets. Tommy Paul won his game in straight sets, the American. German superstar Alexander Zverev beat Spain's Jaume Munar in straight sets. A name you haven't heard much, Canadian Milo Raonic went to tie-breaking sets with German Dominique Kopfer, but the German won 6-7, 7-6, 7-6. Tough to see Milos Raonic go home so early. You had some great basketball go down on this day. South Sudan taking on Puerto Rico. Remember, South Sudan almost pulled off that magical upset in an exhibition with the United States, and they kept that going. They took Puerto Rico, winning 90-79, showing off their length and athleticism in that one. Then we'd get the game we'd all want to see. Which edition of the Dream Team is this? As they took on Nikola Jokic in Serbia. Lots of anticipation going into this one, and it was the Serbians that got off to a hot start, going up 10-2, forcing an early Steve Kerr timeout where he quickly took out Joel Embiid for Anthony Davis. That kind of spun things a bit. Curry would hit a big three. LeBron would make some nice plays. Serbia would go back on top, but then the U.S. brought in the Slim Reaper, Kevin Durant. First time we'd see him, as he missed all the exhibition games, but man, what an entrance. He'd come in and hit the first shot. He'd see Anthony Edwards would follow that with a three. Suddenly the game was tied, and Serbia was taking a timeout. Bogdanovic tried to get a quick three to end the quarter, but he bricked it, leading to an alley-oop for Anthony Edwards the other way, giving the U.S. a 5-point lead after that quarter. And the Americans just kept lighting it up, mostly through KD, who could not miss. LeBron continued to make tough plays, forcing another Serbian timeout as the American lead grew. But Serbia would make back-to-back plays, Jokic getting back-to-back and ones, cutting the lead to 4. And then LeBron would make big play, followed by Steph Curry. And then Serbia would get a 4-point play followed by an Embiid turnover, which caused him to get subbed out again. And Serbia were just down 2 points. But then, who do you go to? KD. He had another big shot. A buzzer beater in the first half, putting him at 8-8 from the field, 5 for 5 from long range. Finishing the first half with 21 points off the bench, and they were all needed. Americans led 58-49 at half, and in the third quarter, the Americans were getting physical. LeBron threw a player, and Embiid fouled someone hard. LeBron got the common foul, while Embiid was given an excessive one. The game kind of went back and forth, but the Americans would just run away with their lead, going with a 19-point lead into the fourth, and they'd keep it around that 18 to 20-point threshold. And Steph Curry put the icing on the cake with his trademark three, look away walking as it splashes. USA won big, 110-84 over Serbia. Can't believe Jokic, his plus-minus, when he was on the floor, he was even with the States, and you can see the negative when he was off the floor. And very interesting coaching tactics by Steve Kerr. He didn't play Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton the entire game, just deciding to go with the 10 he rocked. He said he can't believe he did that, and he feels bad, but I don't know. He said he talked to Tatum before the game, letting him know with Kevin Durant back, he might not get as much time, but damn, that was something else. Women's basketball, you had Spain taking on China. China was using their height and jumped out to a big lead. It looks like they had this. China's Yuru, who plays for the Sparks, making big plays, showing off her skills, but you can tell she's still young. Lots of turnovers. And those turnovers what really brought Spain back into this game. Rodriguez is something else for Spain. She never looks like she stops running. Her and Las Vegas ace center Megan Gustafson really brought Spain back into the game. China looked like they had it, just had to hit some free throws, but they'd miss them and leave the door open for Spain. Where Rodriguez would hit a big three to tie the game and get fouled. She had a chance to win it. She'd missed the free throw, but Spain was rocking that momentum in overtime, and they'd hold on to win 90-89. Huge comeback win for Spain, who were down, but were never out as they came back to win. You'd have another crazy comeback. Serbia was up huge against Puerto Rico all game, dominating it as they took a 55-36 point lead into the fourth quarter. But having that big lead gave desperation to Puerto Rico with a little bit of complacency from Serbia, leading the Puerto Rico outscoring Serbia 19-3 in the fourth quarter and almost pulling off an outrageous comeback. But Serbia would hold on to win 58-55. Just a reminder, don't take that foot off the pedal. Women's footy. This one was between Colombia and New Zealand, and it was Colombia the whole way. They dominated the ball, and they'd end up winning 2-0 as they picked up the big win. Japan, they had a chance to take a lead before halftime in their match against Brazil, getting a penalty but not converting. In the second half, you'd see some wonderful Brazilian passing, leading to a beautiful goal by a substitute, Jennifer. Brazil led, and just for the 90th minute, it looked like a possible hand in the box by Brazil. VAR confirmed it, and they'd get another penalty chance. It'd be a long run-up for the captain, and she'd bury it, tying the game at 1 in the 92nd minute. Things would go from bad to worse for Brazil. After a giveaway in their own area, Japan would spot the keeper off the line and curl a beauty in from long range, giving them the 2-1 lead deep in the stoppage time. Brazil was looking like they had 3 points with a 1-0 lead approaching stoppage time. Instead, they find themselves losers, losing 2-1 after giving up 2 goals in 4 minutes. And then Australia took on Zambia. You're like, oh man, Australia's got to be the favorites in this one. But this was perhaps one of the games of the tournament, men's or females. Australia took on Zambia, and Zambia's Barbara Band would score not even a minute into the match. Alana Kennedy would tie things up for Australia in the 7th, but in the 21st, Kundanji would score to make it 2-1 Zambia. Then Band added her second of the game in the 33rd, and it was 3-1 Zambia. Haley Royce, though, got one back for Australia just 2 minutes later, and it was 3-2. But then Zambia's Banda would score a first-half hat-trick off a corner, putting Zambia up 4-2 going into the break. Kundanji would score her brace early in the second half, making it 5-2 Zambia, but Australia would not quit. 2 minutes later, an own goal would make it 5-3. They'd score again, but VAR would determine a foul on the build-up, so that wouldn't count. But soon after, Australia got a dangerous free kick, and Steph Catley put it right at the keeper, but it went through her hands, Butterfingers moment, into the net, making it 5-4 after 65 minutes. And then more drama as VAR found a foul in the box by Zambia, leading to a penalty, where Catley would convert from the spot, and this game would be tied at 5 somehow. And just for the 90th minute mark, Australia's Heyman would get spotted, and she'd go one-on-one with the keeper, burying it and putting Australia up 6-5. An outrageous comeback. Anytime you're saying 6-5 in footy, it's wild. Credit to Zambia, who played well, but just could not finish the job. Spain took on Nigeria, and although Spain was dominating the ball, this was a fairly even game. Until the 85th minute, a free kick from Alexia Putellas. It looked like she'd cross into the box, but intentionally or not, she'd curl that into the net. A stunner 85th minute goal would prove to be the difference as they picked up the 1-0 win. Now, Canada would be playing their first game since receiving that 6-point deduction that I mentioned earlier. From Drone Gate. They'd be taking on the host France, and we knew anything but a win would have them unable to advance. A lot of pressure on Canada's interim manager. And France looked the team more likely to score to start, and the hosts got the opening goal when Katoto would show off the footwork with finding them back in the net. Beautiful goal. France led 1-0. The second half, Canada started cranking up the pressure. Lawrence would send a dangerous low cross that was knocked by the keeper, who also collided with her defender, but the ball fell right into the path of Jessie Fleming, tapped it in, tied the game at 1. The French keeper took quite a knock there and was stretchered off. She was replaced by the backup. The game got a little chippy as both teams had chances to get a second goal. Plenty of stoppages led to the officials adding 13 minutes of stoppage time. Canada had some big chances but they couldn't go ahead. Then in the dying moments, France had a chance to end the game. Wide open chance, but Sheridan, what a save by the keeper. A huge save. France looked to go on the counterattack again, but Becky showing how you run back on defense, forcing the turnover, which was massive because the ball would go the other way. Heidema would force a huge save by the French backup keeper where the ball would fall to Vanessa Gilles. Her shot hit the inside of the post and went in deep in the stoppage time, 12 minutes deep. Canada went ahead for the first time in the match, leading 2-1. Final whistle came. Canada held on to win 2-1, keeping their slim chances alive even after that 6-point deduction. What a game. You gotta love how they battled. Defending Olympic gold medalists live another day. The French supporters were stunned. Winning goal scorer Vanessa Gilles had an awesome quote after the game. We're not cheaters. We're damn good players. We're a damn good team. We're a damn good group, and we prove that today. Really saying damn a lot, showing about our national mascot, the beaver. All eyes shift to Wednesday, July 31st, where Team Canada will need to beat Colombia, and they will advance past the group stage. Like I said, despite that deduction, if you're not on this team's back, you got to be rooting for them. What they're going through, you can be like, they're cheaters, but these players had nothing to do with that. They've just been dealt the cards of dealing with the aftermath, and man, did they step up. Super proud of that performance. USA took on Germany, and this was a big match. Two titans in the women's footy world. But just for the 10-minute mark, US would go on the attack. Perfect low cross was met by Sophia Smith. She found the back of the net, going up 1-0. Germany would equalize. Their captain, Pop, got taken out, but the ref played the advantage where Gwynn, who's had a great tournament thus far, blasted her shot from outside the box, finding the back of the net, tying the game. 3 minutes after the equalizer, the Americans went up again. Sophia Smith forced a big save out of the keeper, but she'd lose the ball to Swanson, who tapped it in, and it was 2-1 for the U.S. Americans would go on the attack again, where the Germans tried to clear it, but it fell to Smith, who tried her luck from long range, getting a nice deflection, finding the back of the net and going up 3-1. And then late in the match, U.S. substitute Lynn Williams would find the back of the net in the 89th minute. Big 4-1 win over Germany. 4 different goal scorers. It's a U.S. women's soccer team showing again why they're one of the best in the world, if not the best. But hey, Canada's still gold medalist holders, and July 31st, we'll see what happens there. Today, Monday, July 29th, this is the third official day of the Olympics. Another great day of competition. Events going on before I even recorded. More beach volleyball, handball, field hockey, rowing, tons of good tennis. Both Canadian women in action today. Leylah Fernandez, Bianca Andreescu, both in action, hoping to advance to the next round. Hope they do. Plus a second round match between Czech's notes. Whoa, Serbia's Novak Djokovic and Spain's Rafael Nadal. Nice. That should be juicy. I know Nadal's near the tail end of his career and more probably into the doubles with Alcaraz, but that's a throwback match there. Big women's basketball today. Nigeria already shocked the Australian team 63-56. Big win for them. We get to see Canadians women's basketball team as they take on France, the LA Sparks, and sometimes TSN worker Kia Nurse in action, and Washington Mystics rookie out of UConn, Aaliyah Edwards. And we get to see that beast of a team known as Team USA as they take on Japan. Lots of good players on there. Imagine Asia Wilson will go wild in that one. The women's rugby 7 should be wrapping up their quarterfinals as well today. Some more judo medals getting handed out, and we'll see our first equestrian medals handed out. More skateboarding medals to be handed out as the men's street finals go on. And all eyes will be on men's gymnastics as they have some finals today. And we'll also go back to the pool where they'll be giving out more medals. Medals already given out this morning. We had some in shooting, the 10-meter air rifle women's final. South Korea getting gold, China silver, bronze going to the Swiss. On the men's side, China gold, Sweden silver, bronze didn't write that. Maricic won that one. The men's synchronized diving, 10-meter platform. China got gold, silver for Great Britain. How about a bronze for Canada? Another medal for Canada. What up? So that's the Olympics. I broke down some day-to-day stuff. There's some good stuff going on today I hyped up, but like I said, July 31st, cheer on Canada. Do what you got to do to get us to the next round there. Quick mention of the NFL. The Washington Commanders announced they'll retire Darrell Green's number 28. You might remember us giving him a shout-out in episode 28. Miami Dolphins and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa agreed to a huge 4-year, $212.4 million contract extension, including $167 guaranteed. My Green Bay Packers saw that contract and said, hold my beer, agreeing to a deal with Jordan Love on a 4-year, $220 million contract, making him the highest paid quarterback in history. I mean, I love what Jordan Love's doing, but man, that's some big money. And a tough blow to an NFC North rival, Detroit Lions kicker Michael Badgley is going to miss the whole season after injuring his leg in practice. They're calling that a torn hamstring. We'll go to the baseball diamond here. The Blue Jays, after avoiding a 3-game sweep against the Tigers, they had a day off before hosting the Rays in a 3-game series. Jose Barrios would start for the Jays while the Rays went with Sean Armstrong. After going through a series of different pitchers, Tampa Bay would go up 4-2, and that's how the game would end. A big road win for Tampa as they started that series in Toronto. The Jays would then have a roller coaster game in Game 2 of the series where they were up 2-0 in the bottom of the third. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. opening the scoring with an RBI single in the first before hitting a solo home run in the third. And in the fifth, after the Rays got a run in the fifth, in the sixth, Randy Rosarina would hit an RBI single. I have to get his name right because you'll find out a little more later. But the Jays bats woke up late in that one. Justin Turner got one with an RBI single. Dalton Varsho an RBI single. Then you'd see some mess ups. Turner would score on a pass ball, and Varsho would score on an error. Jays would win 6-3. The rubber match, it was ugly. A bad outing for Chris Bassett got worse and worse. Jays got skunked by a baker's dozen, losing 13-0 at home to end the series with the Rays. The Jays would stay at home to host the Texas Rangers, and I've said it before, but this one could have been UC Kikuchi's last game in a Jays uniform. We'll find out as we approach that trade deadline this week, but it was a pretty good outing, and things were close. Things were tied going to the bottom of the ninth, where Ernie Clement became the hero with his walk-off hit. Jays won 6-5. The second game, the Blue Jays bats got to Michael Lorenzen early. Dalton Varsho blasted a three-run home run to give the Jays an early 3-1 lead. Clement would bring another run home, and Lorenzen's day was done. Jays would add more runs throughout the game, but it was the pitching of Kevin Gossman that really helped the team. He'd pitch a complete game, striking out 8 and allowing 3. Great night for Gossman as the Jays won back-to-back games, winning 7-3. The Jays were like a bachelor with no broom. They were looking for a rare sweep. And again, the Jays got to the Rangers pitching staff early. John Gray was supposed to start for Texas, but some groin discomfort had him withdraw from the game, giving that to a guy who will honor in next week's jersey mentions, number 72, Jonathan Hernandez. And he started, and it did not go well. Varsho again killing the Rangers early. 2-run home run to give the Jays an early lead, 3-0 lead. The third inning, Hernandez would give up another home run, this time to a solo bomb to the on-fire Guerrero Jr. Hernandez would get pulled, but Jakob Lutz would come in and give up a 2-run double to Addison Barger. The Rangers tried to come back late, but another 7-3 win as the Jays sweep the Texas Rangers. Tough divisional roads ahead for the Blue Jays. They face off with the Baltimore Orioles in a 4-game series in Baltimore, then followed up by a weekend series with the Yankees in the Bronx. So 2 massive series that will really decide the Jays season, no pressure. But if they falter in these series, which I'm kind of expecting they will, it will probably make it easier to see this fire sale. But as we get to some of the trades that have gone down, you'll see why I'm not really digging a lot of the moves. I understand they're for the future, but Blue Jays news, more news. Outfielder Kevin Kiermaier announced he'll retire at the end of the season. The 34-year-old will play 12 seasons in the MLB by season's end. Blue Jays pitcher Ricky Tiedemann will undergo Tommy John surgery this week, and he'll be out for the year. Speaking of the Blue Jays' struggles, this is a good segue to the MLB division wrap-up. Looking at the AL East, we know the Blue Jays are in the basement of the division, 4.5 games back of the Rays, who are in front of them. The Jays are a whopping 13 games behind the division-leading Orioles. The Orioles have a 1-game lead over the New York Yankees, and it's gotten close at the top. The Orioles won a 2-3 against some NL competition, and they will be trying to take a stranglehold of the division when they play the Blue Jays in that 4-game series I just mentioned. I mentioned how the Yankees are nipping at the Orioles' heels. They lost both games against crosstown Mets, but bounced back and won 2-3 against the Red Sox. The Yankees have a doozy of the series of taking on the Philadelphia Phillies, which starts today, before they take on the Blue Jays, as mentioned. Spoke how the Red Sox struggled against the Yankees, but they're still 6.5 games back in the division. And I already mentioned the Rays, who are just a few games behind the Red Sox in that division. But despite being 2 games above 500, the Rays appear to be sellers again, but we'll get more to that. Looking at the AL Central, the Guardians are still leading the division. This division's been full of mediocrity lately, as the top 4 teams in that division have all gone 5-5 in their last 10 games. Chasing Cleveland are the Minnesota Twins, who are just 5.5 games back, and behind them are the Royals, just 6.5 games back in the division leaders. Bit of a drop-off in the division to the Tigers, who are 3 games under 500 and 12 back in the division. Then there are the Chicago White Sox, still the only team under 30 wins on the season, and currently in the midst of a 14-game losing streak, which is already their second such streak of the season. This team is on pace to be the worst team in the history of modern baseball. Like I said, they are on pace to be worse than the 1962 New York Mets, who set the record by going 40-120 Anytime you have multiple losing streaks of 14 in one season, you know you're having a bad time. Which brings us to the AL West, where we have the Houston Astros leading the division by the slightest of percentage points, but Seattle Mariners, despite some of the worst hitting in the majors, are right there with them. Plus, they made a move that could really help them on that end. The Texas Rangers were right in the division race, but that sweep against the Jays hurt them a bit. They're now 4.5 games back in the division. The LA Angels are a few games behind the Rangers, but look out for the Athletics. And like a box of chocolates of the major leagues, you never know what you're going to get with the Athletics. They've won 7 of their last 10, and they're looking to catch the Angels out and get out of the AL West basement. Bringing us to the National League, where we start in the NL West. The Los Angeles Dodgers are playing some better ball and find themselves still atop the division. Teams behind them have been playing pretty good too, though. The Padres are just 6.5 games back, and they just had their right-hand pitcher Dylan Cease throw a 114-pitch no-hitter in a 3-0 win over the Nationals, the second in franchise history and the second in the majors this season. The Arizona Diamondbacks are just 1 behind the Padres, right in there, and San Francisco has been playing better and find themselves 10.5 games back at division leaders. Colorado Rockies currently have the least amount of wins in the National League, and playing in the NL West has to be tough. But one of the best scenes, I think, from the Rockies seasons was when pitcher Cal Quantrill called out Boston Red Sox catcher Reese McGuire. The pitcher looked at Reese and said, "You jerked off in a fucking parking lot, you dumb fuck," causing the benches to clear. But there's not a lie there. You may remember when Reese McGuire was part of the Jays organization, he was caught cranking it in a parking lot during spring training. So I do feel good for Reese. A few days after this happened, the Red Sox made some moves, which I'll get to, and to make room, they had to send Reese down the designation to make room. But we'll go to the NL Central, where the Brewers are still atop the division. The race behind them is tight, but that gap has grown a bit. Second place 6 games back, which are the St. Louis Cardinals. And that pack is tight. The Pirates are 1 game behind the Cardinals and just a few games under 500. The Cubs and Reds are just a few games back. Again, one of the most exciting divisions in baseball. Tighter than most. This takes us to the NL East, where the Phillies are still running away with the division, 8.5 games ahead of the second place Atlanta Braves. Looking forward to that Phillies-Yankees series I already mentioned. I mentioned those Braves have struggled a bit. Still trying to have a good season despite all those injuries, but the Mets are streaking, and they're only 1.5 games back of the Braves in the division. There's a bit of a drop-off as you go to the Washington Nationals, and an even bigger drop-off to the basement-dwelling Miami Marlins. I mentioned some trades before I get there. I forgot to congratulate the 4 new Hall of Fame inductees on last episode. So shout-out to manager Jim Leyland, Todd Helton, Adrian Beltre, and Joe Mauer, all getting their formal introduction to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And kudos to those guys getting immortalized at Cooperstown. Now to those trades. The Mariners, who I said have struggled to hit, picked up Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays. That's huge. He's a good hitter. And in exchange for him, they got Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. Really should help the Mariners hitting. The Boston Red Sox acquired Canadian left-handed pitcher, who you might remember from episode 65, James Paxton from the Dodgers. The Sox are familiar with the Big Maple as he was playing in Boston back in 2023. The Baltimore Orioles acquired Zach Eflin from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for 3 minor league prospects. Like I said, the Rays aren't that far down, but here they are just getting rid of players. The Yankees bolstered their outfield by getting Jazz Chisholm Jr. from the Marlins. The Seattle Mariners acquired right-handed pitcher Yimi Garcia from the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays weren't done there, trading right-handed pitcher Nate Pearson to the Cubs. Toronto Blue Jays also, this one stung a bit. I enjoyed watching them play in the game earlier this summer. Me and my wife went to, but Danny Jansen traded to, of all teams, the Boston Red Sox. Ugh. The package includes prospect Cutter Coffee, and so the Jays are getting some good players back, but that one stings a bit. Chicago Cubs also acquired Tampa Bay Rays third baseman Isaac Paredes. Again, the Rays, they just sell, but they always seem to be involved here. It's amazing what they can do. We'll jump to Formula One here, the Belgian Grand Prix. But before we do, Team Haas, more announcements. We know Ollie Berman was moving to the team. They will now have current Alpine driver Esteban Ocon, who's leaving Alpine at the end of the season. He'll be joining Ollie Berman on the Haas team next season. Qualifying for this race, Max Verstappen took pole, but a power unit change led to a 10-place grid penalty, and he'd have to start in 11th, leaving Ferrari's Charles Leclerc to have pole position. Red Bull's Sergio Perez finally had a good qualifying, and he'd start in the front row. after Max's penalty. The second row included a pair of Englishmen, Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, and McLaren's Lando Norris. Throughout the race, we'd have various different leaders, but a moment that could have turned out much worse. McLaren's Oscar Piastri entered the pits, coming in a little hot, and he was eased in the stopping by pit crew's Jackman. It hit him, and he took the brunt of it, but the car stopped, so that could have went a lot worse. And after a majority of drivers did a tire change, Mercedes' George Russell was leading the race, and they said, "Do you need the change?" He said, "Nah, we good." Piastri with fresh tires and make a nice move passing Charles Leclerc, moving in the third. Leclerc's teammate made a move on Sergio Perez to move in the seventh. But at the front of the pack, Lewis Hamilton was really starting to close the gap on his teammate who was rocking the old tires. Lewis would try to catch up, but he couldn't quite do it. And George Russell's one pit stop strategy on tires with 34 laps of usage took the Grand Prix. He looked like he had his third career F1 race. Teammate Lewis finishing second. McLaren's Oscar Piastri rounding out the podium. Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Sainz, Perez, Alonso, and Ocon rounding out the top 10. However, news would come out. George Russell's car came in underweight, a whopping 1.5 kilograms underweight, caused him to be disqualified from the race, losing what would have been his third F1 win. The team admitted to a genuine error. Massive news. Lewis Hamilton was declared winner, Piastri moved to second, and Charles Leclerc moved on to the podium. Big news that really hurt Mercedes on a day where they finished 1-2. Now Russell got no points, and that penalty could really hurt Mercedes in the Constructor Championship battle. Statement was released by team principal and CEO Toto Wolff, who said, "We have to take our disqualification on the chin. We clearly made a mistake and need to ensure we learn from it. We will go away, evaluate what happened, and understand what wrong. To lose a 1-2 is frustrating, and we can only apologize to George, who drove such a strong race." You could feel the frustration in the statement, and you know this has to hurt George Russell. He raced admirably and thought he had his third career F1 win, but it was all taken away. But for Lewis Hamilton, it's his 105th career win in the F1, a second win in the last three races. But we get a pause in the F1 schedule as the teams get a month off before returning the race for the Dutch Grand Prix on August 25th. Brings us to UFC 304. It had a weird starting time. I didn't even really know when it was going down. So I did have to watch highlights of that. And Tom Aspinall beat Curtis Blades with a first-round stoppage. Personally, I thought it was stopped a little early, but, they called it. Regardless, Aspinall picked up the big victory. The other main featured Leon Edwards facing off with Belal Muhammad. Another match that this one wasn't too exciting. It went the distance, I guess, but Muhammad would win by decision, winning the UFC welterweight title, becoming the first MMA fighter of Palestinian heritage to win a title. Congrats on him doing so much for his homeland, who's going through the absolute worst. And also a shout out to Paddy Pimblett, won a submission in the first round against King Green. Quick NHL news, Stan Bowman's the new man in town for the Edmonton Oilers as their new GM. Columbus Blue Jackets hired Dean Evison as their new coach. Evison was fired as the head coach of the Wild last season, who happens to be who Columbus opens the season with, and he's already pumped up for that one. My Flyers locked up forward Travis Konecny on an 8-year, $70 million extension. 25-year-old forward for the Canadians, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, expect to be out 4 months undergoing surgery on a broken leg. He'll probably miss the start of the season. Columbus Blue Jackets re-signed Kirill Marchenko on a 3-year deal, and the Leafs signing Alex Nylander, brother of William, to a 1-year AHL contract. He was playing for the Blue Jackets last season. And Buffalo have inked their goaltender Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, a 5-year, $23.75 million deal. So before we jump to the short, let's do these jersey shout-outs, right? Starting with a larger-than-life figure, Alex Karras, one if not the most famous Detroit Lions ever, playing college football at the University of Iowa. He was first-team All-American, consensus All-American, Outland Trophy for Best Collegiate Lineman, the first player to ever win that. He led the Detroit Lions. He was drafted by the Lions, 10th overall in the 58 draft. Before he was even drafted, he dabbled in wrestling and was a professional wrestler. He then signed before signing with the team, he drafted him. He'd spurned the CFL Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who were hoping to get him, and his professional career was tainted with controversy. At a bar in Detroit, the Lindell AC Bar, which was known for gambling, Karras admitted to placing bets on NFL games and was suspended by the league, along with Green Bay Packers Paul Hornung, for the entire '63 season. Imagine that in today's day. During his exile, Karras went back to the squared circle, back to wrestling under Dick the Bruiser. But upon the reinstatement, Karras declined to make a call on the pregame coin toss, saying, "Sorry, sir, I'm not permitted to gamble." He wasn't a part of many winning teams, but I mean, not a lot were in Detroit. Uh, Karras spent all 13 seasons of his pro career with the Lions, and although there were a few times he thought of leaving to boost his contract, he stuck with the team, and he'd pick up plenty of individual accolades: 3 first-team All-Pros, 6 second-team All-Pros, 4 Pro Bowls, and in retirement, he was named to the '60s All-Decade team. The Lions honored him by naming him to the Pride of the Lions, the Lions' 75th anniversary team, Lions All-Time team. Karras was inducted to the College and Pro Football Hall of Fames, but that's not where his end. His humor came front and center when he teamed up with writer George Plimpton, and they wrote the book Paper Lion, which was made into a movie in 1968 where Karras played himself. Following the release from the Lions, Karras made several TV appearances on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, even a bit part in The Mary Tyler Moore Show. He went into acting full-time, and his most prominent role was a minor but memorable one in Blazing Saddles. He'd appear on screen in many different pictures. His filmography is bigger than you think. He wrote a memoir, Even Big Guys Cry, and a novel, Tuesday Night Football. In his later years, he suffered from serious health problems stemming from dementia, heart disease, and cancer, and he was among the 3,500 former NFL players who filed lawsuits against the NFL in the early 2012 over the long-term damage caused by concussions and repeated hits to the head. In October 2012, he was diagnosed with kidney failure, and after being in hospice, he'd pass away at 77. One of the most charismatic people to play in the NFL, Alex Karras had an impact on everyone he met. The next 71 from the NFL as a player I actually got to watch during my lifetime. I'm talking about one of the best offensive tackles of his generation. Longtime Seattle Seahawk Walter Jones. He started his college career at Holmes Community College in Mississippi, where he played 2 seasons and was Mississippi Junior College Player of the Year. He transferred to Florida State to play for legendary coach Bobby Bowden, and he had to reshirt 1 season, as were the transfer rules at the time, pre-transfer portal days. He was a beast at Florida State. Second-team All-CC, second-team All-American honors. He'd forego his final year of college eligibility and enter the '97 NFL Draft. Seahawks picked him 6th overall, and from that point forward, Walter Jones would start every game he played from his rookie season, where he was named to the All-Rookie team, until his last career game. That game on Thanksgiving in 2008 was Walter Jones' 180th and last game. He'd pick up an injury in which he'd get a microfracture surgery, and that ended his season. Although he tried to come back, his body wouldn't allow him to come back. I have a whole episode in my back pocket planned about microfracture surgeries. The whole idea and how long it was practiced is mind-blowing. But back to pre-injured Walter Jones. This man was a beast among beasts. One of the main reasons the Seahawks got to Super Bowl 40, where they'd fall to the Steelers in the big game, but Jones would earn 4 first-team All-Pro nods, 2 second-team All-Pros, 9-time Pro Bowler. Many consider him to be the best offensive tackle in the game. One of my heroes, John Madden, would constantly praise Walter Jones. Former Seahawk coach Mike Holmgren said Walter Jones was the best offensive player he ever coached. And remember, Holmgren had coached Brett Favre in Green Bay. Jones was named to the NFL 2000s All-Decade Team, NFL 100th Anniversary Team. Seahawks honored him by inducting him to their Ring of Honor. He's one of 4 players to get their numbered retired by the Seahawks, joining Kenny Easley, Steve Largent, and Cortez Kennedy. The 5th jersey is number 12 for the fans, but Walter Jones inducted the Pro Football Hall of Fame, always beloved in Seattle, and again, one of the best offensive tackles of his generation. Sticking with dynamic offensive tackles, the next 71 on our list, Tony Baselli, an absolute unit at USC, where he was a 3-time first-team All-Pac-10 recipient, also a first-team All-American, as consensus All-American. This led to the Jaguars selecting the big man 2nd overall the '95 NFL Draft, becoming the first ever draft selection for the expansion Jacksonville Jaguars. Baselli quickly became a franchise favorite with the new team. He'd have instant success, was named to the All-Rookie team. His time in Jacksonville brought some individual accolades as well. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros. In 7 years in Jacksonville, he battled a serious shoulder injury that really impacted his play. 2002, he'd get selected by the Texans in their expansion draft, where he'd spend the entire season on the injury reserve and have to retire. Sully didn't have the longest career, but when he was on the field, he was really damn good. Getting named in the NFL '90s All-Decade Team, and the Jaguars honored Baselli by making him the first player in the Pride of the Jaguars. He also became the first and only Jaguar to get his number retired. He had his number 71 retired in 2022. Although Baselli's the only official Jaguar to have his number retired, some former teammates hadn't had their number get reissued since he left. Quarterback Mark Brunell, running back Fred Taylor, and wide receiver Jimmy Smith. So I'm thinking their numbers may get retired in due time. Baselli made the College Football Hall of Fame for his dominant play at USC. The same year he had his number retired by the Jaguars, Baselli was also inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the first Jacksonville Jaguar to do so. So you can understand why Baselli is such a legend in Jacksonville. Sticking with the NFL, the next 71 on our list, another offensive tackle who was dominant, playing his entire career with one team. Talking about Willie Anderson. He played college ball in the SEC with the Auburn Tigers. Initially starting at guard before moving to offensive tackle, where he'd earned 2 first-team All-SCs and a second-team All-American. His great play led to the Bengals choosing him 10th overall in the '96 draft. Anderson got plugged into the lineup early and made the All-Rookie team. After a few more seasons, helping Bengal running backs put up big numbers, Anderson would make 4 straight Pro Bowls, second-team All-Pro before making 3 consecutive first-team All-Pros. He's beloved in Cincinnati and hoped to play his entire career with the franchise. After 12 seasons with the Bengals, Anderson refused a pay cut and was released by the team. Anderson was hoping to not accept a hometown discount, and the team cut him for it. Maybe one of the reasons why the Bengals have never won the Super Bowl. From there, Anderson would join the rivaled Ravens, where he started 10 games and helped them make it to the AFC Championship game in John Harbaugh's first season with coaching the team. The following season, the Ravens placed Anderson on the reserve retired list. The Ravens begged him to come back, but he called it a career. What a career. The Bengals would come to their senses and honor the long-time member. Anderson was named in the Bengals Ring of Honor, as well as the 40th and 50th anniversary teams. I was very surprised Willie Anderson is not in the Hall of Fame, and I was sure of it. But then I realized he's been on the short list the last few years, and it's come up short each time. Momentum's building, though. So next year, I'm thinking Willie Anderson will finally get that induction to the NFL. We'll go to a current player in the NFL, one of the best offensive tackles in the game, Trent Williams. You go on to play college football at Oklahoma, where he played as a true freshman and continued to grow into a dominant offensive tackle, earning 2 first-team All-Big 12 and consensus All-American nods, leading to the Washington Redskins, who they were called at the time, drafting Williams 4th overall in the 2010 draft. He had a very up-and-down tenure in Washington. Early on, he was an offensive co-captain, but soon after, he and teammate Fred Davis were suspended 4 games after failing several drug tests. Williams would return to the lineup and play at stellar for him, although he did battle injuries and would have to miss the 2013 Pro Bowl when he picked up an injury during a club fight. But again, he'd go back on the field and continue to dominate. But in 2019, Williams had a procedure to remove a growth from his head that was diagnosed as DFSP, a type of cancer. This was first noticed in 2013 by the Washington medical staff, but they told him it was nothing serious. So when this came up, this enraged Williams. He demanded a release or trade for how the medical staff handled the injury. If you're not getting a trade, Williams essentially held out for an entire season as both parties scouted a trade partner. 2020, Washington traded Williams to the 49ers for a few draft picks, and after the trade, Williams battled some injuries while still playing as one of the best of his position. He then signed a contract extension, making him the highest paid offensive lineman in the NFL. He continues to anchor one of the best lines in the NFL. The 49ers were still favorites to go on a Super Bowl run. Williams was a big part of the 49ers that made it to last year's Super Bowl, Super Bowl 58, where they fell a little short to the Chiefs. Williams' individual accolades are amazing. 11 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pros, second-team All-Pro. Even though those tough times in Washington, the franchise named him one of the Washington Commanders' 90 greatest a few years ago. I see Williams getting a lot of recognition after his playing days, but despite being one of the best of his generation, only having 4 All-Pro nods, that could help him getting in the Canton. Adding a Super Bowl ring to the resume would definitely help, so no pressure on the 49ers. Next, number 71 from the NFL is also on the offensive line. I'm talking about offensive tackle Jason Peters. Not technically retired. Peters is the oldest active player in the NFL at 42. He went to Arkansas to play with the Razorbacks, where he was originally recruited as defensive tackle and spent time as reserve defensive lineman before moving to tight end, where he played well enough to earn second-team All-SC. And despite that, he'd go undrafted in the 2004 NFL Draft, leading to the Bills signing him on an undrafted rookie contract, where he was cut, then resigned to the practice squad, where he'd work his way on, and then he'd get teachings under O-line coach Jim McNally, and under that tutelage, Peters would become the starting tackle. During his time in Buffalo, he made 2 consecutive second-team All-Pros, 2 straight Pro Bowls. However, before his second Pro Bowl, second team All Pro season, he held out with the Bills. He'd return and have a great season, but that holdout carried over, and he'd get traded to the Eagles, where he'd continue his great play, picking up 2 first team All Pros and another 2 second team All Pros, making 7 Pro Bowl appearances, and was a part of the Super Bowl 52 winning Eagles team that beat the Patriots. Peters' last season in Philly would be filled, and he'd leave at the end of the year, joining the Bears on a 1-year deal, where they were decimated by injuries, leading to Peters getting some good time. He would then get signed to the Cowboys practice squad to provide depth to that team. But again, at the end of the year, he wasn't resigned, which brought Peters to sign with the Seahawks. And at age 41, going on 42, he's the oldest player in the league. And now being at 42, he is the oldest active player in the league. Not officially retired yet, and like I said, he could add some veteran depth to a team that needs it. He's been named to the 2010s All-Decade team, and I'm not sure if he'll make it to the Hall of Fame. His longevity and Super Bowl ring, Pro Bowl appearances, and All-Pros work in his favor, but it'll be close. There's a lot of guys not in there, and I don't know if his resume is any better. But there are a lot of good players rocking the 71 in the NFL, which will bring us to the NHL with perhaps the most famous 71 in them all, Russian superstar Evgeny Malkin. He began his career in Russia before getting selected second overall in the 2004 NHL draft, 1 spot behind compatriot and Episode 8 shoutout Alexander Ovechkin. The move to Pittsburgh wasn't easy as Malkin was still under contract in Russia. It took a series of sketchy-sounding moves to get him over, but once he was with the Penguins, the rest was history. He picked up an injury in the preseason, which delayed his debut a bit, but once he got on the ice, he'd score a goal in each of his first 6 games, a feat that had never been achieved before in the NHL. Playing with fellow superstar Sidney Crosby, Malkin would go on to win the Calder Trophy for Best Rookie. Malkin has played his entire career with the Penguins. Teaming up with Crosby, they have won 3 Stanley Cups together. They lifted the Cup in 2009, beating the Red Wings in 7. Then they won back-to-back, winning in 16 and 17, beating the Sharks in 6 and the Preds in 6 the following year. Malkin put up some spectacular individual performances over his time as well. In 2009, he led the league in points, winning his first Art Ross, before winning the Conn Smythe in the playoffs on the way to that Penguins Stanley Cup. He became the first Russian player to win the Conn Smythe, and his best season probably came in 2012 when Malkin again won the Art Ross, but he also won the Hart for MVP and the Ted Lindsay Award, Best Regular Season. He's also been named the 7 All-Star Games, and he's a proud Russian that has represented his country at the international level, picking up 2 silver medals at the juniors. He's also picked up medals at the senior level as well. In the World Championships, Malkin has won 3 bronze, 2 silvers, and 2 golds. This 37-year-old is still under contract with the Penguins for a few more seasons, and I hope when it comes time to retire, he can do it as a Penguin. He's walking into the Hall of Fame for sure, and I see the Penguins retiring his number 71. From our next 71 in the NHL, we leave Russia to go to the States. We have center Dylan Larkin, who got drafted 15th overall by the Red Wings in the 2014 draft. He played college hockey for the Michigan Wolverines for a season where he earned All Big Ten freshman team and All Big Ten first team and freshman of the year. After that season, he'd signed an entry-level deal with the Red Wings, foregoing his seasons in the NCAA. He played in the AHL with the affiliate Grand Rapids Griffins, where he'd play pretty well, and he'd make his debut at a 19-year-old with the Red Wings, becoming where he'd register an assist in the period and his first NHL goal in the second, becoming the first Red Wings teenager to score in his first game since Steven Yzerman did it in '83. Larkin continued his stellar play his rookie season, even making the All-Star game, becoming just the 7th rookie to play in the All-Star game and the first since, Steven Yzerman. Larkin would lead the Red Wings in goals, becoming just the 6th rookie in history to do so. But despite those great numbers, he'd lose out on Rookie of the Year to Chicago's Artemi Panarin, who took home the Calder. Larkin's next few seasons couldn't live up to his first one, but he's increased his play the last few years and has made 2 more All-Star games. The Red Wings gave him an 8-year contract extension, keeping him in town for a while. And he's also represented the United States, picking up 2 bronze medals at the World Championship level. And one of the better U.S.-born players in the league right now, still only 27 years old. Next on our list is from Sweden, and although he didn't start his career donning 71, he's worn it the last 7 years. I'm talking William Karlsson. He's drafted by the Ducks, 53rd overall, playing sparingly with the team. He'd get traded to the Blue Jackets, where he had some underachieving years, leaving him exposed for the 2017 expansion draft, and the Golden Knights snagged him, and the move was the best thing that happened to Karlsson's career. He'd put on the 71, have a career year, scoring his first career hat trick on the way to scoring 43 goals, which was the most ever scored by an expansion expansion team, most ever scored in expansion team's first inaugural season. He also won the Lady Byng Trophy, joining Wayne Gretzky as the only other player to win an end-of-season award in the team's inaugural season in the NHL. That's a mouthful. He helped get the expansion team to the first ever Stanley Cup Finals, where they lost to the Caps. But William Karlsson was one of the 6 remaining players from that original run to stick around and win the Cup in 2023 when the Knights beat the Florida Panthers in 5 games. And after only existing 5 seasons, that's a pretty impressive Stanley Cup win. Karlsson continues to play for the Golden Knights and is an important member of the team. He's also played for Sweden at the international level, winning a silver and gold medal at the World Juniors, as well as gold at the World Championships. We wrap up the NHL portion of the 71 jersey wearers with the Lightning center Anthony Cirelli. Played for the Oshawa Generals of the OHL, making the team as a walk-on. Playing great for them, even scoring the game-winning goal in overtime against the Kelowna Rockets in the 2015 Memorial Cup. He got traded, or this great play in Oshawa led to the Lightning drafting him 72nd overall in the 2015 draft. He'd sign an entry level with the Lightning and get traded from Oshawa to the Erie Otters, where again he'd score a championship clinching goal in overtime. 2017, he'd score the goal in the OHL championship to beat the Mississauga Steelheads. The Otters would fall in the championship game of the 27 Memorial Cup to the Windsor Spitfires. But Cirelli would go on to play in the AHL before getting that call up to the Lightning, and he was an immediate impact, earning all rookie team honors and showing off more clutch genes on his resume, scoring the game-winning goal in OT of Game 6 of the 2020 Eastern Conference Finals against the Islanders. With the Lightning, Cirelli has already won 2 Stanley Cups, the 2020 win over the Stars. The very next season, they beat the Canadiens in 5. Cirelli is a proven winner and a clutch scorer at every level he's gone on, and he'll be an important piece in the post-Steven Stamkos era. Going to baseball, the first 71 on our list, one of the best relievers in the game right now, Josh Hader, dominant in high school, and he was prepared to go to Ann Ardell Community College, but he got selected in the 19th round by the Orioles, 582nd in the draft, and he chose that signing bonus instead of going to college. Spent a lot of time on the rookie level Gulf Coast League, never making an appearance for the Orioles before getting traded to the Astros, where again he'd play good in the minor leagues but never get called up. Get traded again, this time to the Brewers, where he'd start the 2018 season in the bullpen, becoming the first pitcher ever to record 8 strikeouts in an outing that was less than 3 innings long. His dominant play out of the gates earned him his first All-Star nod, and he won his first NL Reliever of the Year. He continued his great pitching, and through injuries, he became the closer, where he continued to thrive. Second consecutive All-Star game and a back-to-back NL Reliever of the Year award. He went on to make 2 more All-Star appearances with the Brewers and won another Reliever of the Year award. In Milwaukee, Hader would also throw an immaculate inning, led the NL in saves, and was part of a combined no-hitter. He'd get traded to the Padres, where he spent a year and a half in San Diego, earning another All-Star appearance. But once he became a free agent, he would come full circle and sign a 5-year deal to join the Houston Astros. His numbers have not lived up to his numbers in the National League, but he's part of a resurgent Astros team who have turned their season around here. And I've also mentioned his amazing accolades. He has a few MLB records, most consecutive outs via a strikeout. He got 16 in a row in 2018. He also has the most consecutive hitless appearances at 12. He's the fastest player to reach 400 strikeouts, achieving it in 234 and 2/3 innings. And he has the most consecutive saves that start the season at 18. 71 hasn't been really popular in baseball, but there's a few pitchers out there other than Hader that rock the number. Right-handed pitcher for the Giants, Tyler Rogers. 33-year-old picks up some strikeouts from the reliever position. Chicago Cubs right-handed pitcher Keegan Thompson. The final 71 mention is Baltimore Orioles right-handed pitcher Jacob Webb. He's picked up by the Orioles last season, and he did win a World Series with the Atlanta Braves in 2021. Going to the NBA, not a lot of 71s in the league. The only one that really jumps out is the brief time it was worn by German star Dennis Schroeder. He usually wears 17 on the court, but he had to wear the 71 for his 49 games in Boston. Schroeder's played with the Hawks, Thunder, Lakers, Celtics, as I just mentioned, the Rockets, Raptors, and he currently plays for the Brooklyn Nets. But Schroeder's made a bigger name for himself representing Germany in the international games and was a big reason why Germany won the FIBA World Cup last year and why he was FIBA World Cup MVP. Big reason why Germany is expected to have a good run in this year's Olympics. Schroeder's the captain of the German basketball team, and he even got the honor of flag bearer for Team Germany at the Olympics, a moment he will never forget. Another Olympic fact, there are a few other basketball players from the NBA carrying the flag. LeBron James, the flag bearer for Team USA, and Giannis Antetokounmpo was the flag bearer for Greece, also becoming the first person of color to hold the flag for Greece in the Olympics. So credit to those guys. So there you go. The Jersey Mention switched it up here at a different spot, which brings us to our short, a long Olympic episode, and let's throw it way back in the Ren City Chronicles here. I'm talking elementary school days. St. Anne's and Prince Albert, go Angels. I don't know if schools can still do this, but we would have a big play day near the end of the year where it was like our own little Olympics. Each team would have so many members and you got points based on how you perform, much like the Olympics, I guess. And you get assigned a Canadian Olympian. We got someone named Silken Laumann. Now, as a kid, you're like, who is that? But the more you looked in, this was a rowing master in Canada. She picked up 2 Olympic bronze medals, and she had also won the silver at the 96 Olympics in Atlanta. One of Canada's best rowers, and it was an honor to represent her. We even had a little jingle for our team, so we were all like, row, row, Silken Laumann, go. Really 90s vibe to it. But it was fun. Cool day consisting of who could throw the ball the longest, long jump to the ever fun tug of war, an event I wish was still part of the modern Olympics. Could you imagine? Big tanks, tug of war. You could have mixed, women's, men's, do whatever you want. That'd be cool. But yeah, that's regardless how you feel about Olympics or sports, I think days like that are great for kids to figure out what they're good at, you know? Like those cheesy commercials say, no one's good at everything, but everyone's good at something. Good way to view sports and, you know, try different stuff out. Summer's been busy. I'm not getting every single thing I was hoping to this summer, but we still have some more months left. Get out there and enjoy it. Don't forget about the magic of the Olympics and the power of sports. Episode 71 is in the books. Thanks for tuning in. And let's cheer on our Canadian athletes, especially the women's footy team who needs all our support. They're taking on Colombia July 31st. Get your flags out, cheer for them. The coaches really put them in a shitty spot, and I see them bouncing back from it. But thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it. Episode 71 in the books. Ren City out.